All right.
Clap it.
Clapping it in. All right. So we're here today with Raf, aka The Dragon, aka Director of Nothing at Marwoods, which is an official job title, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it?
Hello, everybody.
So Raf, man, we're basically, the concept of these videos is we've already done a video on how to make the cocktail that we're drinking, which is this beautiful thing here. But just tell us a little bit about what you've made, man. And
so this is like a little upgraded a sour or like a fizz. But to add a little bit of flavor to it, I've used a homemade kombucha, just to make it elevate a little bit and upgrade it. As we know, Redbreast 12 makes a wonderful whiskey sour. But by adding a little bit of fizz and making it a little bit longer, makes it a bit more refreshing, a bit more summery. Beautiful. Nice. So we've got like a kiwi and blueberry kombucha. The base of that was mint. So you've got like mint, you've got a little bit of kiwi, which adds a little bit of sharpness at the end. And then that berryness from blueberries. And obviously the color, it's amazing.
Man, the color is really nice.
I wish I had and then
kombucha to show everyone, because it's some stunning stuff, man. So like say, what we wanted to do a little bit is just shoot the shit about the drink like you would with your friends if you were at a table. And like I gotta say, just like drinking it now, it's insane how well kombucha works in like a fizz, like something that's like a little sour and a little long, and like maybe it's got like a little bit of a fizz to it, because it works on a like acidic level with the lemon, but it also works on like a textural level with the egg whites, and also it's got a little bit of sweet sharp thing going on with the sugar as well. So it's a great ingredient. I have definitely been getting into making kombucha recently, thanks to yourself, because you gave me a SCOBY, literally forced me out the door with a SCOBY. But when did you start making it, and maybe what were like some of the problems you had when you started making kombucha?
So I think it all started when Jackie was still around in Marwoods. She's made a SCOBY herself out of like she was doing some shrubs, and we've had like one of those just stay there for a little bit longer, probably the whole 3 months after she left. I found it in the cupboard, and I was like, well, might as well start doing something with it. I didn't know whatsoever what I was doing, so started researching. A lot of contradictions going on the internet as well. So there's a lot of people that tell you one thing, tell you another. Like, so you have to kind of find your own way. And also, obviously, your microclimate, it also varies everything. So you start with whatever you've got, and then use one recipe and then adapt it to whatever the circumstances are. So in Marwoods upstairs in our lab, this is also like when we built the lab and everything started to like come on nicely. So I was like, I need to start working on some projects, and that seemed to be quite nice. To the point where at one point I was brewing like 40 liters at the time. So it's quite a lot. Yeah. So I've put it on draft as well. At one point I've had like a draft kombucha in Marwoods. I've used it in cocktails. I've supplied half of Brighton with SCOBYs. It's a bit of a fun thing. And it makes it a little bit more interesting. So we've all worked with like off the top of the shelf ingredients, and that's nice because it's much easier to replicate the drinks. But once you start working with like fermentation and live cultures of bacteria, it becomes all more interesting and a little bit dangerous.
Yeah. So yeah, I was going to say on that, I had my own experience. If you want to see it, go onto my Instagram of something going like absolutely pear shaped. The other day, what's the worst? Let's say any fermentation, not kombucha, but like what's the worst any fermentation is kind of fucked up for you?
I mean, I didn't really have any like dangerous things going on. Some of them, so I've brewed some nasty stuff. Like I wouldn't probably drink it, but it was just like fermentation going badly. Even though sometimes you follow all of the advice, like keep it clean. That's like the number one thing to make sure that everything is maybe not sterile, but sanitized. So you want a little bit of those life cultures bacteria. Like once you make everything sterile, then you kill everything. So it won't work as well. But certain things that I've done is like sometimes what happens to it, it goes a little bit like slimy, and I can't figure out what's going on with it. So if any of you know, let me know, because I've had a few. Yeah, when you go with like fresh mints, usually. So if I use like fresh mint leaves and brewed out of that, I've had some problems there. But like, I don't think I didn't have any explosions like you did.
It's nice to know I'm alone on that one, man. It's nice to know that it's actually difficult to get that kind of response.
We've had some exploding cans. We've canned the cocktail, and we've had some exploding cans. But there wasn't any injuries there. Just a little bit of fun. Yeah.
I guess as well, I want to say, like, I don't want to perpetuate the idea that kombucha is difficult to make, because that's actually kind of what turned me off of it for so long, was thinking that everything needs to be like really sort of almost like lab sort of levels of sterile and things like that, and it's going to be really difficult. But actually what I found is, as long as you follow the basic guidelines, the SCOBY is actually really quite a hardy thing. Like, it's kind of difficult to kill a little bit. Not to say that you can't, but it's definitely not. It's not hard. It's you have it, and then you just kind of leave it, and it's very happy where it is.
Yeah. Like, unless you're like unlucky, you can get unlucky, and you can just it really its own nature, isn't it? So you can get unlucky and you contract some like fungi on it, and then unfortunately you're gonna have to bid it. But most of the time, if you follow the rules of like making sure that your actual backstop is acidic enough, and you want it to be quite acidic, because it helps out with like with the protection from like the bad bacteria. So most of the bad bacteria, they don't thrive in like acidity lower than 4.5. I think, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so it's all about like just practicing and building it up and finding your own way of doing things. Everyone does it differently. I'm making one right now, actually.
Oh, fair. Yeah, I was going to say, man, we had like a little chat about this the other day, but like, how has making your own ingredients and like doing your own ferments like affected the way that you make cocktails? Because we were having a bit of a chat about how, I guess, in some ways there's kind of like a culture at the moment of like making your own ingredients, and that's the special thing about your cocktail, but kind of forgetting about classics. You obviously yourself, a lot about classics before you ever went into this, but what's your approach now to making a cocktail? Do you still like to go for stuff that's simple, or would you say that you've like advanced and now everything you do is a little bit more like sort of homemade?
So obviously, yeah. So like, to construct an interesting menu, you also always have to have certain drinks that are pleasing the majority of the customers. So like, if you put some like kombucha on your menu, then it makes it a little bit more difficult to sell. People are not so keen on trying new things, which means that it takes into account more how well your customers and your regulars, and how willing they're going to be to like try new things. But I definitely think that I'm overcomplicating stuff usually, so that's the problem. I think so, yeah.
What, overcomplicating how? What, like you're like over like explaining the process?
Yeah,
or?
I feel like I'm trying to go for the most obscure ingredients that you can find. That's my problem. Rather than and usually the drinks that taste the best are the ones that are the simplest. But I always try to make like a beetroot stuff, or like going for some obscure ingredients that you don't necessarily need, but it makes it a bit more interesting, because I've been doing it for a long time and I've done drinks with like regular stuff. So for me, exploring fermentation is now something that is like a next step in my evolution, I think. So
yeah. I mean, I definitely feel that way. I'm starting to make some actual some tepache, which is like sort of a Mexican like pineapple beer at the moment. Like, and I'm hoping that's going to kind of turn out okay. I love the sort of like the long form trial and error of like fermenting stuff and things. That it's like you put something into it and then you leave it for like a few weeks or whatever, and then you try it, and there's always you can almost like, it's so weird to think like, well, if 2 weeks back I'd done this differently, this is how it would taste different. And it's interesting to kind of like approach from that way. But you are right. Do you know what I was reading about? And like it was genuinely like sort of international news piece, and it was talking about the gold rush. Have you heard about this cocktail? And it was basically about, I think it was some high-end New York bar, how they've replaced honey syrup for sugar in a whiskey sour, and how this has become like a modern classic. So I think like the general assumption is you're going to find something fantastic from like going really overboard with some ingredients, but maybe just changing something for like really simply. Like I've been using some raw acacia honey in some stuff, and it completely like changes the way the drink tastes rather than using sugar.
I mean, we're forgetting the fact that like the general public are not necessarily involving on it on the same level. So like certain things have been explored, and bartenders know that it's been like, oh, you're just replacing one ingredient. It's not really creating a new classic. Yeah. It's not. It's someone has already made that drink. It's more about like advertising, marketing, and pushing it through. And this is where the brands come in, really. I think that's their territory. More make it something popular. And like, if you look at like Jameson, they take in the JJLs and then they're just like pushing it out. It's a very simple drink. It's been made across the world everywhere before the campaign started. But once it becomes adopted and once people start asking for it, it becomes almost like a classic drink. Yeah. So it's more about turning to the consumers and making sure that they're following that trend. So
I guess something that's interesting is we've got this huge trend of making cocktails at home at the minute for obvious reasons. How do you think that's going to affect the sort of drinking culture a little bit? Do you think more people will have been making those cocktails at home, maybe thinking that it's a little bit more difficult than what they thought, and there's going to be a little bit more respect coming out the other end of it? Or do you think it's going to be the opposite thing, where people just get comfy?
Where the customers are going to come into the bar and teach bartenders how to make drinks.
Man, it's an idea. It's an idea. Yeah. It's just suddenly someone will ask you, it's like, what is that 1-to-1 sugar syrup, or is it like, and you have to be like, we can't fool these people anymore.
Yeah, it's not that we're trying to fool them. It's more like they're going to come to you and they're going to try to tell you how to do your job, or they're going to be like, oh, can you make me my drink that I made during quarantine? I came up with this cocktail recipe. And suddenly they're going to be just throwing those things at you. So I don't think it's going to be indifferent. I think people are just going to be happy to be able to go out and spend some time with other people in a bar, and like a nice environment where you don't have to worry about playing your own music. You don't have to worry about cleaning your own glasses. Yeah,
sure, there's going to be a greater appreciation.
You just come and chill. Yeah, we'll do it for you. We'll clean it for you. It's okay.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
I think there was a big trend. Yeah, there was a big trend with like kombucha coming in, and it meant to happen last year. Like 2019 was meant to be like the big year where they were talking. The year before they were like, yeah, everyone's going to be making their own kombucha in the bars, and that really didn't catch on as everyone is expecting it. It was like a big push towards that kombucha, everyone making their own. But I don't know why. It's as you said, it's probably more difficult to keep the consistency there and being able to use those ingredients. If your menu changes like every 2 weeks, then that's fine, because you'll be able to like keep it fresh and systematically make a new kombucha. But if you're putting a menu on that was meant to last a season, like 3 months, then it's going to be a little bit harder to keep that consistency.
That is definitely. I've tried to make the same thing twice, and even with the same measurements, it's really difficult to get it exactly the same.
It makes the difference because you have the different ambient temperature in the room. Yeah, you leave the window open for a little bit, and it changes everything. Yeah, it slows it down, speeds it up. There's lots of different. Now the plants are starting to pollinate and stuff. We saw so that changes as well. There's more microorganisms in the air as well. So there's
interesting, man. I think the great thing about doing a drink like this though is that if you're doing something like this, it's gonna work on so many levels anyway, because the main things that you're playing with in terms of fermentation of kombucha anyway is acidity levels and how sweet it is, basically. Once you go into secondary fermentation, obviously, levels of carbonation, and it's going to get a little less sweet. But because there's a variable amount of sugar and a variable amount of lemon juice or acid in this, you can kind of play with it depending on how the kombucha turns out. So if you're just selling
this
kombucha,
is where your simple serves coming in. This is where your simple serves are coming in, where you don't really have to make a drink like this. You can just be like, I remember when me and Harry went to Colombia last year. I was like having a drink, so I just ordered some gin. And they had a kombucha on the menu. So it was just like a berry kombucha, boom, bang it in, super hot weather. And it made like a very simple serve. And this is, I think, where kombucha is. It's also like a very interesting non-alcoholic drink.
Yeah. So, that's obviously something that we're seeing a huge trend of at the minute. If you haven't noticed it, I'm sure a lot of people watching this have, is no and low ABV cocktails and spirits and things like that. I mean, obviously, a lot of what's on the market at the moment kind of struggles to give a big sort of flavor, something that, the alcohol is going to bring to it, if you know what I mean. But kombucha does that with its just intensity, basically. I think there's some good non-alcoholic spirits out there that are doing great stuff, like bitterness and things like that. But in terms of like a really complex flavor, I think I could, like this drink right here, like I could quite happily, take the alcohol out of it and you'd have a really serviceable drink. So I hope that we're going to see a little bit more like fermentation homemade ingredients used as, for people that don't want to drink, because they've been shortchanged up to this point, it really would seem.
You're gonna have to charge premium for it though. That's the problem, because because you still have to make your margins and stuff. And if someone comes in and they don't order that cocktail for £7, then you're gonna have to charge them a fiver. Or even £7 for a non-alcoholic cocktail on some occasions. So this is where the difference is, though.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, though. I mean, like I think the market's kind of proven that people are willing to pay for something that's really good. I mean, how do you drink kombucha? I mean, like, do you make it into it? Like, if you're going to drink it yourself, or do you just drink it straight? Or
I just drink it like I drink it more for like health benefits than anything else, really.
Have you noticed like a health benefit?
That's it. So I would just go for a glass in the morning, for example. So I do also kefir, so like a milk kefir.
Yeah.
Myself. So that's something that I've over the last 2 days I've been just chucking it into a blender with some berries and stuff and drinking in the morning. But drinking kombucha is more about drinking a healthy stuff. I don't drink it as a soft drink. I drink it as a part of like a routine. I'm actually on the last bottle and bottling new ones. So yeah, so it's all about the microorganisms and biomes in it that help you to digest stuff and have a nice poo.
And kefir, for people that don't know, is
kefir is like it's very similar. So this is like it's you can either have it in two different types. There's lots of different types, but like the one I make at home is made with milk. So it there's a bacteria. It's something a little bit similar to a SCOBY. It's called kefir grains, or kefir in English probably. So those little things. It works in a very similar way as the kombucha, which means that you add the milk, it breaks down the sugars, turn them into acid, and then you end up with like live cultures of bacteria in it, and then you drink it. It's good for you. But there's also water kefir. I think that comes from Asia as well, which means brand called Agua de Madre. I'm not sure if you heard about Agua de Madre. It's like a big brand of water kefir. They've recently done some crowdfunding and gathered some funds for expansion. So you're probably going to see them. It's a super fast growing category. Super easy to make. It takes about 24 hours compared to kombucha, which is about 10 days. It really depends. If you have like a fermentation chamber, then like last year the summer was quite hot, so it took about a week for me to make a batch of kombucha. But kefir is it's basically a fermented milk. It's like a yogurt kind of thing, but it's got a bit more, it's a bit more bubbly and acidic.
Yeah.
So it's good for you. It's just the problem with your body is, I think I spoke with a doctor about it, a friend of mine, and she said it doesn't stay in your body, so you have to reinforce it constantly. So this bacteria does not sit in your body, so you have to keep drinking it for it to have a good effect on you.
I see.
So you flush it out. Yeah.
That's interesting, man. I mean, kefir is definitely something that I think will come on. I mean, we say that the kombucha, maybe in a homebrew way, hasn't, let's say, sort of peregrinated into sort of popular culture. But I would say, I've got a friend who lives in Hackney, and he basically says that, if you throw a stone out of his window, you're going to hit a warehouse that's just making ridiculous amounts of kombucha, and you're seeing it in your sort of higher end supermarkets and things like that now, and that's definitely in the public consciousness. And I remember learning about those things at World Class 2 years ago for the first time. So it's crazy how quickly that has actually jumped into a really popular market. So to see kefir maybe do that as well, it would be really interesting. I don't think it's impossible either. So that would be really cool, man.
That was nice.
This was genuinely really fucking good as well.
It's super interesting, no?
I'm going to be having another one after this. I've still got some left. That is how it's how sour it is. It's how, because kombucha's not sour like lemon sour, right?
Yeah.
It's actually sour in a whole different way, almost like a malt vinegar type sort of sensation on your tongue. So it's like having a sour fizz that has two elements of sour to it. It's just got so much more depth. And then the fruitiness as well. And then, that little under sort of malty whiskey.
But the kiwi, the idea of kiwi in this drink is quite interesting, because it's it's got that, when you eat kiwi and you get this feeling in the back of your throat. That's a sharp, unusual thing. That's quite interesting. I've never done anything with kiwi like this, so I'm definitely going to be coming back. To it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to give you some of my my homemade Mexican pineapple brew as well, man. Some of that tepache. I think I've probably got about a week or two on that, maybe. To build up some good alcohol.
Are you doing are you doing are you adding yeast to it, or you just
No, you get organic pineapples, and it's got the yeast already on the pineapples, and then you use some soft brown sugar, and I got some little aromatics in there as well. So that's we'll see. I mean, I'm going to leave it for a few days. I'm going to keep burping it to save fucking disaster again. But we'll kind of go from.
Are you brewing it? You brew it in a bottle, yeah?
No, well, the first fermentation goes in a jar, and then it goes into a bottle afterwards for carbonation. So the actual sort of main fermentation, the alcohol production, is going to be in that first fermentation.
So I'm using this. So a 5 liter plastic bottles, water bottles from Co-op.
Yeah.
So you get that, and then you make a little air trap on the bottom on that, like a water trap, and then that works like a dream. I'm fermenting some pineapple as well, but just pineapple and sugar.
Yeah.
Chopped up.
Yeah, I got some habanero in there, and I got some cinnamon as
Fancy.
Well. Yeah, man. Well, they do some real good habaneros at a little shop around the corner. The little Turkish shop. So yeah, I'm
this guy here, yeah.
Oh, mate, he's been getting me through this whole quarantine, bro. He deserves a huge shout. Charlie, if you include this in the video, give the Turkish fella on the corner a huge shout out.
Give him a big shout out.
Second to none, man. He's giving me my fresh produce every day. Even got some pineapples.
Did you know he's been working now? Now I've lived here for 11 years. And he's been working there for at least 8 years, every day.
He doesn't
take a day.
He's the only person that works there. And he's just whole supply chain. And he's lovely as well.
8 years, man. 8 years, no days off.
Man, mad props to that guy. Just huge shout out.
We should put him in front of them bartenders complaining about working too much, yeah?
100%, man. He's a local hero. That is without doubt. We need some promotional speeches from him, man, for sure.
I told him I'd make some kombucha, So you should bring him some kombucha as well.
We should put a care package together for that dude for sure. He's been still like now. He's just open every day till late as well, man. He's not even closing up early. Ah, man.
And 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Like when the whole pandemic started and everything, people were like buying shit out. He told me that he was there till 3 o'clock in the morning, stocking up shelves.
Yeah,
because the people they didn't have time during the day, so people would buy out everything.
Man, what a
hero!
What absolute champ! And he does some damn fine habaneros. Thank you, Raf. This drink was absolutely delicious.
Thank you.
Is pure dregs. Man, virtual chink. I just got to say, look, amazing stuff. Kombucha, super easy to do at home, super delicious. This recipe, there's going to be a video coming out on that. This may be linked to it. Please do give it a go, or give kombucha a try in cocktails, or not. Just drink it in the morning. It's absolutely delicious. Raf, thank you so much for your time, man.
Drink it in the morning.
Drink it in the morning, bro. And I will see you soon, man. Definitely. We'll do a cafe video for sure.
In 2 months. In 2 months. After the
virtually, I'll see you soon. That'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Peace and love, man. You have a good one, buddy.
Man.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.